things I'm frequently asked about is bikes that are having problems shifting. Either they won't shift or they won't shift into all the gears. So I'm going to show you how to diagnose for those problems and give you some ideas on how to fix them. The first thing you need to do is isolate out where the issue is. It's generally going to be in one of three places: in the shifters, in the derailleurs, or in the cabling between them. Okay, let's take a look at the shifters first. It doesn't matter what kind of shifters you have. All the shifters do is they'll pull the cable, they'll hold the cable, and release the cable. So if it's not doing any one of those things, then you probably have a problem with the shifter. And you can test it. Just kind of hold the cable down here and then just try shifting it in the one direction. Do you feel it pulling the cable? Is it holding the cable there? And then try shifting the other direction, and do you feel it releasing the cable? If that's the case, then it's probably not the shifter. And generally modern shifters, you're going to hear a clicking in there as the ratcheting mechanism is working. If you don't hear or feel the clicking in there, then that could be an issue. A very common problem with modern shifters is that there's a ratcheting mechanism in there with pawls, and the little pawls will get kind of gunked up and they don't work right, and so they don't catch in there. And so you can clean and lube these, and I have several different videos on how to do that. Check the description of this video for links to those videos. And here's a bike with grip shifters, which are pretty common on mountain bikes. Again, just hold the cable down here and just try shifting it. Do you feel it pull the cable down there? And do you feel it releasing the cable? And so if it's pulling, holding, and releasing the cable, then you know that the shifter is working. Okay, so after I've checked the shifters, if they seem to be working, now I'm going to check the derailleurs, and I'm going to start with the rear derailleur first. I've shifted the shifter down so that it's released as much of the cable as it can, and on most derailleurs, that will put the chain down on the smallest cog. And so when the cable's pulled, it'll push the chain up to the biggest cog. There are some derailleurs, however, like Shimano Revo Shift, that when the cable's loose, it'll be up on the biggest cog, and when the cable's pulled, it'll move down to the smallest cog. But the small cog is the norm. So what I'm going to do first is test the limits of the cage. There's limiting screws here, a low and a high, and limit how far the cage can move in either direction. So what I'm going to do is just manually push the derailleur over and see if it goes over to the biggest cog. And in this case it does. But if it didn't, then it could be an issue with the low limiting screw, which prevents it from going that way. And so I would loosen that screw and then try it again to see if it will go over to that biggest cog. And now, if it won't come all the way over this way, it could be an issue with the high limiting screw, in which case I would loosen that and see if that allows the chain to come over. I have a video on how to adjust the limiting screws. I'll include a link in the description of this video. If it can go all the way over to that way, but won't come all the way over this way, and I've loosened the high limiting screw and it still won't come over, also check the cable to see if it's still tight. If it's all maybe over on the second or third cog there, and this cable is tight, possibly I didn't shift the shifter all the way down to where it loosened it. I would check the shifter. Or it could be that the cable is just not adjusted correctly, in which case I'll disconnect the cable from the derailleur so that the derailleur can move as far as it can, and hopefully at that point it should come down to the smallest cog. If it still doesn't, it could be that the derailleur is just gunked up. Sometimes they'll just get gunk in there that limits how far it can move. So what I could do is go ahead and clean the derailleur out, just scrub it down maybe with some degreaser or spray it with WD-40 and work it so that it kind of gets loosened up. And once it kind of gets loosened up and it will come down, then I can go ahead and lube those pivot points with like a nice, good quality synthetic oil and work that in. Now another possibility that might prevent the chain from going all the way over, usually towards the small cog, is that the derailleur or the derailleur hanger is bent. So look at the rear of the bike, look at the cage and the freewheel. You should see that the derailleur cage here is in line with the cogs on the freewheeler cassette. If you see that the cage here is angled in towards the spokes or angled away, then it could be that the derailleur hanger is bent, or possibly the derailleur itself. I have a video on how to check the derailleur hanger to see if it's straight and how to straighten it. On some bikes it's actually just replaceable, the derailleur hanger. If it's the derailleur itself that's bent, then just go ahead and replace the derailleur. Okay, so let's look at the front derailleur here. I've shifted the shifter all the way down to where the cable is loose as it can be. And in that case, the derailleur cage should be pushed over to where it's going to push the chain over onto the smallest chain ring. If it can't push the chain over onto the smallest chain ring, the most likely causes are that the limiting screw is preventing the cage from moving over farther so you locate the low limiting screw, loosen a little bit, and hopefully that'll allow the cage to move over. The other case could be that the cable is just still too tight to prevent the cage from moving over. So double check that you have the shifter shifted all the way down to where the cable's loose, or it could be that you need to adjust the cable. Sometimes there's a derailleur adjuster on the shifter or on the frame. Loosen that a little bit to where hopefully that'll allow the cage to move over. If that's not the case, again, double check the limiting screw. You might need to actually detach the cable from the derailleur altogether to allow the cage to move over, and then reattach and readjust the cable at that point. Now let's check to see if it'll go over the other way. Now the front derailleur is not as easy to push over, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the cable over here, pull it, and pedal, and hopefully that'll push the chain over onto the big chain ring there. Now if it can't push the chain on the big chain ring there's a couple causes there. Again, it could be the high limiting screw, so it just loosen the high limiting screw, and hopefully that'll allow the cage to move over a little bit farther and push the chain onto the big chain ring. If that still doesn't work, then one thing you also look at is the cage angle. The cage here should be parallel to the chain rings. Sometimes it might be askew, in which case then it just can't push the chain ring over far enough. So what you might need to do then is loosen the clamp and adjust the cage over so that it's parallel to the chain rings, and then tighten the clamp down, and then at that point see if it'll push the chain over onto the big chain ring. But you may have to readjust the derailleur altogether at that point. Okay, so now if the shifters seem to be working, they're pulling the cable, they're holding the cable, they're releasing the cable, and you've checked the derailleurs and they're able to push the chain onto the big cogs and the small cogs, when you're manually moving them, and everything seems to be straight, then next thing to look at is the cables. Often what happens is just the cables get old, they get rusty, the cable housings get cruddy, they get crimped. Sometimes the cables get frayed inside there, and they're preventing the cables from moving smoothly. Just go ahead and replace the cables and the cable housings. This is something I recommend doing occasionally anyway, just for nice, smooth shifting. But a symptom of the cables and cable housings is just resistance when you're trying to shift up, or they are not releasing smoothly. So just go ahead and replace the cables and the housings, and sometimes that will solve your issue. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful or interesting. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel, click the big subscribe button and you'll see new videos that come out. I'm always coming out with new videos. I'm over on Facebook, RJ the Bike Guy. Go over there, like that page. I post a lot of stuff over there, pictures and little stuff. It's kind of fun. And I have a webpage, rjthebikeguy.com. I have videos categorized. I have forums over there. Go sign up for that page. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.